She was just 9, living in luxury, engaged to the boy she loved. But in one night, everything changed. A fatal car crash stole her parents and her relatives. They stole her future. Forced out of school, abandoned, and used like a servant, her fairy tale became a nightmare. But years later, someone returned. The same boy, now a man. Successful. Determined. And ready to fight for the love they once shared. What happens next will break your heart and give you hope. In the serene suburb of Lekki, Lagos, where the scent of jasmine wafted through manicured gardens and luxury cars lined the driveways, little Adaora Nkemdilim lived like a princess. At only 9 years old, Adaora was the beloved daughter of Chief and Lolo Nkemdilim, respected business tycoons known for their philanthropy and empire built from oil and agriculture. Adaora was sharp-witted, humble despite her wealth, and dearly loved by all who knew her. But no one loved her more than her cousin Chibuike Okoye, a charming, soft-spoken boy 2 years older than her. Raised in the same extended family home, they grew up inseparable. Their bond was unusual but pure. Family elders, enchanted by their closeness, playfully declared them future husband and wife, sealing a symbolic engagement with gold anklets when Adaora turned 7. Though still children, they giggled at the idea and swore to love each other forever. Then came the night that shattered everything. It was a stormy Friday. Adaora's parents were returning from a business trip when their car lost control along the Third Mainland Bridge. The news reached her in the dead of night, and the mansion that once echoed with laughter turned into a crypt of silence. The funeral was lavish, more spectacle than sorrow, as vultures in the form of relatives circled the grieving girl. After the burial, Adaora's world changed overnight. Her father's brother, Uncle Okachukwu, moved into their home with his stern wife, Auntie Ifeoma, and their 4 spoiled children. At first, they promised to care for her, but behind closed doors, their true nature crept out. Her possessions were sold, her bedroom was seized, and she was relocated to the maids' quarters. Chibuike noticed everything. Though he lived nearby with his single mother, he often snuck into Adaora's compound with sweets and books, whispering encouragement through the window. "I'll always protect you," he swore, brushing away her tears. But when Adaora turned 11, she was pulled out of school. Uncle Okachukwu claimed the trust fund had run dry. Auntie Ifeoma handed her a tray of fried akara and sent her into the streets to hawk. Chibuike protested, but his mother was poor and sickly, and he could do little beyond offer comfort. One evening, as Adaora trudged barefoot through muddy alleys with her tray, a flashy black SUV screeched to a halt beside her. Inside sat Barrister Chinedu, her father's former lawyer. He stared in shock. "Adaora, what are you doing here?" But as she opened her mouth to speak, Auntie Ifeoma appeared from nowhere, yanked her back, and hissed, "Mind your business, Barrister. She belongs to us now." Barrister Chinedu's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. As the SUV drove away, Adaora felt something shift, a quiet rebellion building in the distance. Far away, Chibuike was about to leave for a scholarship abroad. He promised Adaora, "I'll come back for you. No matter what." She believed him. But deep down, she knew, in this world, promises weren't always enough. Life became a cycle of humiliation and hardship for Adaora. At just 12, she knew the corners of Lagos most children of her status had never seen. Every morning, she rose before dawn to clean, cook, and hawk. By evening, her feet were blistered, her spirit slowly eroding. Auntie Ifeoma watched her with a cold eye, ensuring every coin Adaora made was handed over, lest she be beaten. When Adaora dared to ask about her school, Uncle Okachukwu scoffed. "You want to learn books while your mates are feeding their families. We've given you shelter. Don't be ungrateful." And so, she stopped asking. The only joy that lingered was Chibuike's letters. From a university in South Africa, he wrote her often, sneaking envelopes through a sympathetic driver. Each letter was filled with hope, stories of his studies, and sketches of the future they once dreamed of. "Stay strong, my Ada. You're not forgotten. I'm working hard for us. But months turned to years, and the letters stopped coming. At 17, Adaora had become a shadow of her younger self. Her skin was sunburned from hawking. Her once bright eyes were dulled by fatigue. People who knew her parents pitied her in whispers but did nothing. One neighbor, Mama Nkechi, occasionally gave her food in secret. Your mother once saved my son's life. I will not forget that, she whispered, slipping Adaora a piece of yam late one night. But kindness was rare, and danger was constant. One evening, a man followed Adaora through a narrow alley. He cornered her behind a kiosk and tried to grab her, but she fought, screaming with a strength even she didn't know she had. People rushed in, and the man fled. Adaora collapsed, trembling. That night, she realized something chilling: if she didn't find a way out, she might not survive. Meanwhile, Chibuike was thriving, on paper. He had earned awards, made connections, and finally graduated with top honors. Yet guilt gnawed at him. He had lost touch with Adaora after his mother fell critically ill and eventually passed away. Her death left him alone, and he spiraled into depression, missing the only two people who had truly loved him. One day, while sorting old belongings, he found her last letter: "Don't forget me. Even if the world forgets me, I pray you don't." That letter ignited something in him. He sold his things, packed his bags, and flew home to Nigeria. Now 21, he had only one mission: find Adaora. He searched the neighborhood, visited their old estate, now sold to strangers, and asked around. Most people shook their heads. That girl, some muttered. No one's seen her in a long time. But one elderly man pointed him to a small Catholic church on the outskirts of Ajigono. There's a young woman who helps clean the place. Doesn't talk much. Looks broken. You might be looking for her. Chibuike's heart raced as he rushed there. He entered the chapel, scanned the pews, and there she was. Bent over, sweeping the floor in silence. He whispered, "Adaora." She looked up slowly, her face thin but unmistakable. And time stood still. Adaora froze. Her hand dropped the broom, and for a moment, silence filled the church. Then, her lips trembled as if trying to form words. "Chibuike," she whispered, disbelief in her voice. He stepped closer. "Yes, it's me. I came back. I looked everywhere for you." Tears welled in her eyes. She staggered backward and sank onto a wooden pew, overwhelmed by emotion. Her frail hands covered her face. Chibuike knelt beside her and gently took her hands. "I'm sorry. I should never have left you behind. I thought of you every single day." Adaora sobbed quietly. "I thought you forgot me. I thought I was alone forever." He held her close, letting her cry. The weight of years collapsed in that single moment. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. "They took everything, Chibuike. My parents' house, their money, even my name. I've just been surviving." "But you're alive," he said, tears streaming down his own cheeks. "And I'm here now. I've built a life. I have a home, a career. I'm ready to fulfill the promise we made." Adaora shook her head slowly. "I'm not the girl you once knew. I'm broken, Chibuike." He cupped her face. "Then I'll help put the pieces back together. I'm not here out of pity, I'm here because I love you. Still. Always." They sat together in the pew for what felt like hours, speaking about everything they had endured. The ache in Adaora's heart slowly began to ease, replaced by warmth she had not felt in years. That night, Chibuike took her to a guest house and arranged for a doctor to examine her. The diagnosis was severe anemia and malnutrition. She needed care, time, and love. And he gave her all three. Over the following weeks, Adaora slowly regained her strength. Her eyes brightened, her laugh returned, and for the first time in nearly a decade, she slept peacefully. Chibuike bought her clothes, enrolled her in evening classes, and never left her side. But not everyone welcomed the reunion. When he brought Adaora to his family compound in Enugu to introduce her to his relatives, the atmosphere turned cold. His aunt, Mama Ejim, sneered. "You want to marry her? After all these years? A beggar girl who's been passed around like market cloth." His uncle, a proud politician, scoffed. "We groomed you for greatness, and you bring us this disgrace. You ruin your reputation." Chibuike stood firm. "She's not a disgrace. She's the strongest person I've ever known. And if you cannot respect her, then you do not respect me." Tension rose as a heated argument erupted. Adaora stood quietly, head bowed, ashamed but unsurprised. Then came the twist. As they stormed out, Chibuike's younger cousin, Ikena, approached Adaora outside. "Don't listen to them. They wanted to marry you off to some business associate before you even arrived. They don't care about love, just power." Adaora stared at him. "So they knew?" Ikena nodded. "They just hoped he'd forget you." Inside, Chibuike made a decision. He walked out of the compound with Adaora by his side, leaving behind wealth, legacy, and family expectations. But he had her hand. And that was all he needed. Chibuike and Adaora moved into a modest apartment on the edge of Nsukka, a far cry from the luxury he was born into, but it was theirs. Free from the suffocating expectations of his relatives, they began rebuilding a life grounded in love, dignity, and healing. Adaora enrolled in a local community college. Despite the age gap with her classmates, she quickly excelled, driven by years of lost time and buried dreams. Chibuike took up a job as a consultant and began volunteering with a foundation focused on youth rehabilitation. Inspired by Adaora's story, he dedicated himself to helping other young people escape cycles of abuse and abandonment. Every evening, they shared dinner, laughter, and stories of their day, small, simple joys that meant everything. But the world didn't forget Adaora's past so easily. One day, while running errands at a market, she ran into Barrister Chinedu, the family lawyer who had once tried to intervene during her darkest days. His eyes widened in surprise. "Adaora, you survived." She smiled gently. "I did more than survive." He invited her for tea, where he confessed a truth he had kept secret for years. "Your father had a second trust fund. Hidden from greedy hands. When your uncle took over the estate, I tried to secure it, but they fought viciously. I lost access until now." He slid a folder across the table. "It's yours. Everything he meant to leave you." Adaora trembled as she opened it, land documents, savings, and stock certificates. It was real. She went home and showed Chibuike. But to her surprise, he didn't celebrate. "This doesn't define you," he said. "You became something extraordinary without it. You don't owe anyone your past." Still, Adaora used the money wisely. She founded the Nkemdilim Foundation in honor of her parents, focusing on educating and sheltering young girls abandoned or mistreated by relatives after losing their parents. It became her mission to be the safety net she never had. At the launch ceremony, she stood on stage, radiant and confident. She told her story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. The room fell silent. "There are many Adaoras out there," she said. "Children treated like burdens simply because their parents died. We must change this culture. Family is not who inherits your property, it's who protects your soul." The video of her speech went viral. Soon, people from across the continent reached out, moved by her words. Even Uncle Okachukwu and Auntie Ifioma saw it. That night, they sat in silence, realizing what they had thrown away. But Adaora didn't seek revenge. She had already won. Years later, she and Chibuike married in a quiet ceremony surrounded by children from the foundation. They danced under the stars, no gold, no fanfare, just love. And as she watched the children laugh and run, she whispered to Chibuike, "I was born into wealth, but now, I live in purpose." He kissed her forehead. And that is the greatest inheritance of all. True worth is not measured in possessions or status, but in love, resilience, and the lives you touch when you choose to rise after falling. If this story touched your heart, don't leave without sharing your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever witnessed love survive against all odds? Click like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more unforgettable African tales that speak to the soul. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and never stop believing in love.